Well, Mark was just this little peanut, you know. He he was adorable, and I don't. I mean, he never presented any problem to us at all. He was just, such a good kid. He wasn't verbal like Michael. Later, he was very verbal, but he was. I can just remember him when he was 1 year old, and we have a picture of him. He was dancing with a cup on his head, and he was like that, sort of showing off and getting attention. And he and Michael didn't fight a lot, never. We just had a good time together, and I just spent a lot of time with him.
And what are the things about him growing up that you remember the most?
Mark?
Yeah. Until, say, 16 years old.
Well, at some point, he just started writing a lot. And starting to like school, which, I can't quite remember when that was, but started writing. He and Michael had a band in our cellar, and it wasn't that Mark was such a good musician. It's just that he wrote the lyrics, or he did the lyrics, and Michael played and sang, and neither of them could sing. I wish I could remember the name of the kids that were in the band. I can see their faces, but it's too long ago.
And was Mark good at sports?
Oh, fabulous baseball player.
Mark
was great at sports. If I said, or your father said, hit one out of the park, he would. He was great at baseball. Really good at baseball. And we went to every game. We wouldn't miss a game. And he was so endearing, he was always upbeat and loved sports, and again, he and Michael just no problems at all. Never had discipline problems with them. I'm sure I gave them some spanks, but they were nothing serious. Well, then 5 years later, we had this little baby, my only infant, named Keith. And Keith was, both Ronnie and I wanted another baby. And I wasn't disappointed that it was my third boy. I did say something as they pulled him out of me, because I have cesareans. I remember seeing the dangling of a little penis, and I said, "Oh my God, it's another boy." Look at that. But, by the time Keith came along, we were much more stable, and we moved over to Elliott Street when he was about 2. I was working in the nursery when we lived on Whitney Street, and I would come home at midnight, and Keith would be awake, and he'd be in his crib, and he'd be going bang, 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 ma, 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 ma. He just wanted all of my attention. Persuasive thing all through the years, where Keith did not quite, and he made it known that he wanted to get exactly what Michael and Mark were getting and doing. He wanted to do what his big brothers were doing. He didn't want to be the baby, and that was all right. You know, he was very cute. He had platinum blonde hair. It was a very nice time while the maybe 3 years that we lived on Elliott Street and Loveland Road. I had a lot of friends. There were a lot of good people in the neighborhood. The Heath School was really great. The kids did really well there. Keith was, being taken care of. I was working in the evenings, 3 evenings or 4 evenings a week, and Ronnie was finishing up with school, and so things were on an even keel at that point. And I don't know what happened. And I don't know what happened. I think we started to do like this, Ronnie and I.
So,
I think Keith is a very different kid than Michael and Mark. And I think, I kept seeing him as a youngster, and he grew up in spite of all of that. I used to call him my pal, because we went everywhere together, Keith and I, on my bike, just everywhere. We would bike together. He'd be in the back of my bike. And I didn't go anywhere without him. Michael and Mark were in school. Keith and I were palling around. If I was going to play tennis, he came to the tennis court. If I was going to ride down to, down Beacon Street, he came with me. So that was a joy. It was really wonderful for me to have just one kid, that I could give my attention to. Then he got older. Keith got older, and went to Northeastern. I think Keith was a lot like Ron, It wasn't that he wasn't capable, but I'm not sure that he really focused on academics too much.
got honor roll every time.
Did all right.
I did. That's not true.
Did you?
Yeah. I got 3 point. I got a B plus average all through college. Honor roll. Yeah.
Well, and then you went to Thunderbird.
Well, you missed a big portion of growing up.
What part?
Well, when I got in trouble.
When did you get in trouble?
From 15 until I was basically went into straight.
Oh yeah. I completely forgot about that. I don't want to think about that. I tried very hard to let you do your own recovery, but be there for you, because I knew if I tried to manage it, you'd just resist me. You'd just get tipped off. You wouldn't do it. Just how you are.
What do you mean?
Well, you're your own guy.
And what is that?
What does that mean?
What is that? You're your own guy. What kind of guy is Keith?
Well, that what it means is you have your Keith has his own distinct way of thinking about things, and would not appreciate his mother trying to do it for him. And I needed to back off, because you'd been through straight and you were in college, and it was time for me to back off. See?
And so, what did you think of my travels?
Your travels? What do you mean any travels.
Well, I left pretty much for 10 years. I was traveling off and on. Do you remember that?
Where were you living?
Venezuela,
Uh,
Mexico, Japan, Belgium. You remember all those travels?
yeah, vaguely. You know. I guess you were gone. How old were you?
For 10 years. From the time I was 21 until basically till I was 31.
Man.
Off and on.
And did you meet Michiko when you went to Japan?
Yeah.
In Osaka?
Yeah.
At school?
Yeah. She was 18.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. And you knew even then that you were going to be with her.
I thought so.
Fabulous wife, beautiful daughter, entrepreneurial, doing what he wants to do. Lives way too far away. We're sort of New Englanders, you know.
Yeah.
Boston based. But he's way out there.
The beach.
I know. I think I'd love it.
And how would you talk about Michiko?
I just said she's
Who?
wonderful. Michiko is wonderful, beautiful, smart, a wonderful mother already, very attentive, takes care of Harmony, round the clock. She and Keith have a wonderful relationship. I remember how you got your name too. Do you know that?
Mm-mm.
Buddy Foster. Oh, and Ronnie came at the 7th inning when there was used to be like a 7th inning stretch from Fenway Park over to Brigham and Women's, and we had to name the baby before we left the hospital. So I was in bed and the two of them were standing there and we're going, you know, we looked through the A's, we looked through the B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's in the baby book. And we got to the K's and I said, come on, you guys. I don't want to just have any old name. I want a name that means something. And so I said, what about, and the way he looked, I said, you know, would you want him to be Kevin? You know, something like that. And so then Ronnie said, you know, I think that Keith is a family name somewhere in the background of my family. And I said, what? Well, I said, but I like Keith. And then we sort of said Keith Powers, Keith Adam Powers, you know, and unfortunately there was this a black guy called Adam Clayton Powers. That was a sort of national politician kind of guy. And so my father always, your name always made him think of that guy. But we liked it, so you became Keith Adam Powers. They went back to the game.
And they went back to the game? Dad told me it was because of that TV show.
What TV show?
Keith, Mr. Keith, or whatever his name. My three sons. My, you know the one with Mr. Keith. Yeah, his last name was Keith, Mr. Keith, whatever his name was, and he was a guy who was a single dad who had kids, and his name was Keith or something like that. Yeah, so it was right out of the book.
Yeah.
One of those
Different memories.
different memories. Yeah.